My name is Hank, and here is my family betrayal and revenge story. There's a rhythm to life out here in rural Tennessee, a kind of quiet honesty that seeps into your bones like dew on a spring morning. I was born on this land, same as my daddy and his daddy before him. 18 acres of rolling fields, one old red barn, and a house we built with our own hands. Not much by city standards, but out here, it was everything. I was 23 when I met Lila. She was working the register at the feed store just off Route 9, sun-kissed hair, eyes like morning sky, and a laugh that could mend a broken day. She had this energy, wild and bright, like she didn't quite belong in a place where the biggest excitement was the county fair. I remember thinking she'd be gone before fall, but she stayed. She said she loved the way the hills rolled like ocean waves, the sound of cicadas in summer, and the way the stars blanketed the night sky like confetti. We'd sit out on the porch in the evenings, bare feet propped up on the rail, drinking sweet tea and dreaming aloud. I'd talk about fixing up the barn, planting more crops. She'd talk about Nashville, sometimes, about music and lights. But she always ended those daydreams by laying her head on my shoulder and saying, "But here's home." We built everything from scratch. Scraped together savings to buy a used tractor. Hauled lumber to rebuild the chicken coop. She painted the living room sunflower yellow while I laid down new floors. It wasn't glamorous, but we had love. And in a place like this, that's supposed to be enough. She loved to cook, cornbread that melted in your mouth, biscuits that could make a man cry. I loved working the land. Dirt under my nails. Sweat on my brow. At night, we'd fall into bed, exhausted but content, knowing we were building a life that was ours and no one else's. The neighbors used to say we were the kind of couple songs were written about. And maybe we were, once. We weren't rich. Hell, we barely scraped by some months. But we had peace. Lila would hang laundry in the backyard while the dogs chased each other through the fields. I'd watch her from the porch, wondering how I got so lucky. I really thought we'd grow old together on that land, die with dirt-stained hands and hearts still full, but seasons change, even roots, deep as they are, can rot if something poisonous seeps in. Looking back now, I still don't know exactly when the shift started. Maybe it was in the way she stopped humming while she cooked. Or how she started wearing perfume to go grocery shopping. But at the beginning, at the beginning, it was beautiful. Before the silence, before the lies, there was just me and Lila, and the land that raised us both. It didn't happen all at once. No thunderclap. No fight. Just a slow unraveling, like an old quilt coming apart at the seams. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just Lila stretching her wings a bit. She started dressing different. Nothing drastic, just shinier. Brighter. Tighter. Blouses I hadn't seen before, skirts that seemed more fit for a Nashville sidewalk than our dirt roads. And the perfume, that was new. Sweet and heavy, like gardenias soaked in honey. She wore it even when she wasn't going anywhere special. Said she just wanted to feel nice. She began spending more time in town. Said she was helping out extra at the co-op store. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She'd always been a hard worker. But then the hours got longer. The excuses got thinner. And the kisses goodbye. They stopped coming altogether. I noticed the change in her eyes first. Used to be, when she looked at me, I saw warmth, maybe even pride. But now, there was distance. Like she was looking past me. Through me. I'd crack a joke at dinner, and she'd give a half smile, like she was somewhere else entirely. Still, I didn't question her. Not really. I told myself she was just restless. Maybe cabin fever, maybe she needed some space. We'd been together for years. People grow, right? I figured if I held on tight enough, she'd come back around, but the porch started creaking louder beneath her footsteps. The silence between us deepened. Conversations shrank to yes or no answers. She stopped singing in the kitchen. Stopped waiting for me on the porch swing at dusk. Even the dogs noticed, started sleeping at my feet instead of hers. Then came the whispers. Seen Lila laughing with someone over at the diner, she sure has been spending a lot of time near Jody Rollins' place. Small town rumors, usually I paid no mind. Folks around here gossip like hens. But these whispers. They lingered. They carried weight. And when I caught Jody grinning too wide at her at the gas station one morning, something in my chest tightened, but still, I didn't confront her. I clung to loyalty like it was gospel. My daddy always said a man's job is to love his wife and tend his land, no matter what storms come. And I'd be damned if I was going to be the one who broke the vows, so I painted over the cracks. Kept fixing the fence. Kept showing up for dinner with muddy boots and a tired smile. And she just kept drifting further away. Looking back, maybe I should have said something sooner. Maybe I should have asked where she was going when she left with lipstick on and came back smelling like someone else's cologne. But I didn't, because sometimes, when something you love starts dying slow, you'd rather pretend it's still breathing. It was a Tuesday, hot, thick kind of day where the air feels like syrup and even the birds go quiet. I came home early from a lumber delivery. Truck tires crunching over gravel, dogs too lazy to bark. I remember thinking how peaceful it all looked from the hill. How damn lucky I was to call this place mine. Then I saw her car, not parked by the house like usual, no, it was tucked behind the old barn. Out of sight. Except I saw it. And beside it, Jody Rollins' rusted-out Ford. My first thought wasn't suspicion. It was concern. Maybe something broke. Maybe they were fixing a fence together, or the tractor. That's how much I still believed in them. In her. In him. I left the truck running. Walked around back with the sun burning my neck and a weight growing in my chest. And then I saw it, them, Lila, legs wrapped around Jody like he was her salvation. Her fingers tangled in his shirt. His mouth on her neck. They didn't hear me approach. Didn't even feel me standing there at first, feet rooted to the dirt. Heart cracking open like a shotgun shell, she saw me first, she froze. Eyes wide, lips parted, like a kid caught stealing. Jody turned, slower, his face draining of color. He didn't even try to speak. Lila stepped back from him. Smoothed her hair like that somehow mattered. And then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Maybe it's time you let me go." Just like that. No tears. No apology. No shame. Let her go. I wanted to scream. Wanted to hit something. Wanted to ask how long it had been going on, how many nights I'd kissed her while she still had his scent on her skin. But all I did was stand there. Staring, something inside me, something soft and faithful, snapped. I looked at Jody, the man I called brother for 10 years. The one who helped me hang porch lights. Who held my mother's hand at her funeral. And I realized I didn't even know him. "I built a life with you," I said to Lila. My voice barely above a whisper. "I gave you everything I had." She didn't answer. Just looked away like she couldn't bear the sight of what she broke, so I nodded once. Turned on my heel. And walked back to my truck. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't look back, but something in me hardened that day. Like the last green leaf shriveling on a branch before winter. That barn, that land, those years, they still stood. But they didn't feel like home anymore, not with snakes slithering through the roots, and I knew, deep in my bones, there'd be a reckoning, not loud. Not messy, but mine. I didn't leave. She probably expected me to storm off, pack a bag, and disappear into the hills like a broken man. But I didn't give her that satisfaction. Instead, I came home that night like always. Ate dinner in silence. Fed the dogs. Washed up. Slept beside her in the same bed, though I made sure not to let our skin touch. And she didn't say a word either. That was the strangest part. No apology. No excuse. Not even a lie to soften the truth. She just moved through the days like I was furniture, something old and familiar but easy to ignore, but I was watching. Listening, every movement felt louder than usual. The clink of her fork on her plate. The squeak of the back door. Her phone lighting up at odd hours, face turned away from me when she read it. Sometimes I'd find her standing at the edge of the field like she was waiting for someone, like she didn't even see the life we built stretching out behind her. I didn't confront her. Didn't accuse. I simply went on with my chores. Fixed the shed roof. Fed the chickens. Split wood. But little things changed, quietly, like leaves curling inward before the frost. I cancelled the land expansion we'd been planning for spring. Removed her name from the credit card she rarely used. Started keeping the books in a locked drawer. She didn't notice, or maybe she did, and just didn't care enough to ask. Some nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow above us, thinking about the way she used to curl into me after long days. How she used to laugh in her sleep. Now her back was always to me, her breathing shallow, guarded. I wondered what they talked about, her and Jody. Wondered if he promised her some shiny future far from this place. But I didn't let bitterness take hold. I held tight to something stronger, resolve. You see, my daddy always said men like us don't fight with fists. We fight with patience. We hold the line until the storm passes, then we rebuild better. So I waited while she played house with a stranger behind my back. Waited while she lied with her silence. Waited while she took everything we built and treated it like ash. She thought I was weak. That my quiet meant surrender. But what she didn't understand, what Jody didn't understand, was that I wasn't staying because I was broken. I was staying because I was planning, and when the reckoning came, it wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be violent, it would be final. The land was never just land to me, it was history. Memory. A heartbeat passed down through generations. My granddaddy cleared these fields with calloused hands and a mule that wouldn't quit. My father bled into this soil every spring, planting rows so straight they looked like they were drawn by God himself. And me? I was born with Tennessee dirt under my fingernails and boots too big for my feet. We didn't own the land. We belonged to it, so when I made that first call, to a land developer out of Nashville, I nearly threw up afterward. But I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just selling acreage. I was cutting out the rot, because that's what betrayal does. It seeps deep, like blight in a good crop. If you don't dig it out, it spreads. I met with the developer 2 towns over, where no one would recognize me. Wore a bald cap low and used my middle name on the paperwork. They were interested. Real interested. Turns out, lakefront property, even in the quiet corners of Tennessee, catches big money eyes. I negotiated slow, careful. Set terms. Made sure it would happen quiet and quick once the time came. Not a single word to Lila. Back home, I kept things normal, or close enough. I still made coffee in the mornings. Still fixed the fence posts. But every nail I hammered felt different now. Not like building. More like preparing to bury something. I'd sit on the porch some nights, staring out across the field and remembering my father's voice. Son, this land is your spine. You stand on it, or you fall with it. He taught me to fix what's broken. To never leave a job half done. But he also taught me about pride, the good kind, the kind that tells you when to protect something. And when to walk away with your head high. He died in that house. In the back bedroom, holding my mother's hand, looking out the window at the place he gave his whole life to. And I always thought I'd do the same, but the land didn't feel like mine anymore. It had been stained, by secrets, by sweat that wasn't mine, by laughter that didn't belong in my barn, so I did what I had to. I met with surveyors in secret. Signed forms under moonlight. Hid contracts under floorboards. Every step was a cut to the past, but a stitch for the future. Lila never asked. She was too busy playing innocent in the daylight and slipping off into shadows at night. She thought I was asleep, but I was wide awake. And soon, this land that once held roots and blood, would no longer hold her lies. The morning came soft and golden, like any other. Birds chirped in the trees. The dew clung to the grass like it didn't know the world was about to change. Lila was still asleep when I pulled on my boots and walked out the door for the last time. I didn't slam it. Didn't pack a bag. I just left a folded piece of paper on the kitchen table beside her half-finished coffee mug and the deed, signed, stamped, and legal. I stood at the edge of the field for a minute, watching the machines roll in, big, loud, and unforgiving. Yellow steel monsters that didn't care about family history or wedding anniversaries. All they saw was development property and profit, but to me, they were justice. The deal had closed late the night before. Quiet wire transfers, signatures delivered by courier. No announcements. No goodbye. Just the cold, clean finality of business. The buyer wasn't wasting time. By 7 a.m., the bulldozers were already carving into the earth I used to call sacred. I watched them cut through fence posts I'd hammered in with my father. They ripped into the soil like it had never known love. But I didn't flinch, because that land had stopped being home the day she let another man walk it like it was his. Inside the house, I imagined she woke to the sound of engines, confused at first. Maybe even annoyed. But not scared. Not yet. Not until she saw the dust rising over the fields and the trucks parked in the driveway, not until she opened the front door and saw the truth. She came running out barefoot, her hair tangled, panic written across her face. I didn't look back, but I heard her yell my name. Heard the disbelief twist in her voice like the lie she'd lived finally caught fire in her throat. But I kept walking. She stood on the porch, my porch, and called out again. I heard it crack. Heard the tears start to come. But she was too late. Too late for sorry. Too late for second chances. Too late to fix what she broke. That paper on the table was all she had left of me. The note was short. You wanted freedom. Now you have it. This land doesn't hold liars anymore. I didn't need to explain more than that, as I climbed into my truck and pulled out of the driveway. I caught one last glimpse of her in the rearview mirror, standing in the dust and rubble, clutching nothing but air. She didn't just lose a home that day, she lost the man who once would have died for her, and me. I drove away with no rage. No tears, just peace. The first thing I did when I crossed the county line was roll the windows down and let the wind take the past with it. I didn't bring much, just the tools I'd inherited from my father, a few shirts, and the old photo of him and Mama smiling under the oak tree that used to stand behind the barn. Everything else I left behind. I found a small plot tucked between the hills, nothing fancy, just 5 acres with a dry well and a busted fence. But it was mine. No ghosts. No memories clinging to the porch steps. Just clean air and open sky, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, just waiting. I worked slow. Every board I nailed, every post I dug reminded me of who I was before the lies, before the betrayal. The land here didn't judge me. It didn't ask questions. It just opened itself up and said, start again, and so I did. Days turned into weeks. My hands grew calloused again. My back ached the way it used to, but there was something peaceful in that pain. It meant I was building something real. Something honest. That's where I met Claire. She lived down the road, on a patch of land with goats and a garden full of tomatoes. I first saw her when she brought over a pie, apple, warm, flaky like something from a memory I'd forgotten I had. She said, saw the smoke from your chimney. Thought I'd say hello. Claire was quiet in the way only strong people are. She didn't fill silence with noise. She let it breathe. A widow, she told me. Her husband died 3 winters back. Cancer. Left her the land, the goats. And a grief she didn't know what to do with until she started planting things again. We didn't rush. I wasn't looking for love, and she wasn't offering it. We just shared space. I'd help her mend her gate, and she'd bring fresh bread on Sundays. We'd talk about weather, tools, the best kind of seed for spring planting. but something gentle started growing, not a wildfire like it was with Lila, no dizzy heat or wild promises. Just slow roots winding beneath solid ground. She saw the cracks in me and didn't try to fill them. Just rested her hand near mine and let me know she wasn't going anywhere. One evening, sitting under the stars with 2 coffee mugs and the distant sound of frogs in the creek, she said, "You've been hurt deep." I nodded. "But I'm healing." She smiled. "So am I." Love came like the morning fog, soft, unannounced, and suddenly all around us, and this time, I wasn't afraid, because across the county line, I hadn't just found land, I'd found peace, and maybe I'd found a future worth growing again. It started with a letter, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. Loopy cursive, careful and practiced, Lila had always taken pride in the way she wrote her name. The envelope smelled faintly like that same gardenia perfume she used to wear when she started slipping away from me. I didn't open it right away. Let it sit on the kitchen table for 3 days. Watched it every morning while sipping black coffee from a chipped mug. On the 3rd morning, I tore it open and read the whole thing in one sitting. It was full of regrets. She said she was sorry that Jody left her 6 months after I did. Said he drained what little savings she had, then vanished. No goodbye, just gone. She'd moved into a friend's trailer. Couldn't find steady work. Her family wanted nothing to do with her, she wrote. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. You were my home, Hank. I know I don't deserve it, but could we talk? I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, a call came through. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hank. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. Softer. Scared, I didn't say anything at first. Just listened. She went on about how she missed me. How she'd been praying every night. Said she never stopped loving me, that she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. That she wanted to come back, not just to the house, but to us. I let her talk. Let her fill the air with all the words she should have said years ago, and when she finally paused, waiting for me to speak, I said only one thing: there ain't nothing here for you now. Silence hung heavy between us. Then came the sobbing. Real, deep, broken. She begged. Pleaded. Swore she'd change. Asked if I could forgive her. I almost pitied her, but forgiveness isn't something you hand out like firewood. It's earned in the spaces between wounds, in the long cold nights after the storm. And she wasn't there when I needed healing. She was the storm. I've got a new life now, I said. And I won't trade peace for memories. Then I hung up. Since then, the letters kept coming. Holidays. Birthdays. Random Wednesdays. I stopped opening them. Just tucked them away in a drawer I rarely open. Sometimes, on quiet nights when the wind rolls off the hills and the stars blink low, I sit on the porch with Claire and a blanket over our knees. And I feel something stir, like a shadow passing through the trees, a ghost. Lila's not dead. But the version of her I loved. She's long gone. She wanted to come back, but I was already gone, and now, she's just another whisper in the hills, another ghost on the porch that no longer haunts me. The sun's just starting to dip behind the hills, casting that golden glow that makes everything feel softer, like even the land's exhaling at the end of a long day. I sit on the porch, boots off, drink in hand, and watch my boy, Eli, chasing our hound through the grass like joy itself. His laughter echoes across the yard, wild and honest, unburdened by the weight of the past. Claire's on the swing beside me, humming some hymn her mama used to sing. Her voice is low and warm, like smoke curling from a chimney. She catches me watching and smiles in that quiet way of hers, no performance, no pretense. Just truth. This right here, this is the life I thought I lost, back when everything burned. Back when betrayal wrapped itself around my throat and made me forget who I was. But it turns out, I didn't lose a thing worth keeping. I just shed what was holding me back. The land beneath my feet isn't as big as what I once had, but it's mine. Every inch was worked by these hands. Every post, every seed, every stone pulled from the dirt, it's all part of me now. This soil doesn't carry secrets. It carries healing. Eli runs up to me, holding a grasshopper like he's discovered gold. Look, Daddy. He shouts, beaming. I bend down and pretend it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, because to him, it is. I ruffle his hair, and he takes off again, Claire laughing as he stumbles and rolls into the grass, arms wide like he's trying to hug the whole world. Sometimes, late at night, I still think of Lila, not out of bitterness. Not out of love, either. Just as a fact, like a storm that passed and left a few broken branches behind. She wanted freedom, and she got it. But the price was steep. She didn't just lose a house or a piece of land. She lost the man who would have given her everything. She lost this, the laughter, the love, the peace that only comes after the fire. She chose something shiny. I chose something real. And now, I look out at the horizon and see not what I left behind, but what I built from the ashes. This porch, this woman, this boy running through wildflowers, this is my redemption, and no letter, no apology, no ghost from the past will ever change that. Lila once said she wanted to feel alive. Well, so did I, and now I am. I've got my hands in good dirt, my heart in steady hands, and my son's laughter in my ears. That's more than a second chance, that's a life, and I'll never give it back.